Well, look, John, we can't have you running around out there wasting friendly civilians.
There are no friendly civilians.
They drew first blood.
Not me.
Look, Johnny, let me come in and get you the hell out of there.
They drew first blood.
Yo, it is the time of year where every CrossFitter, everywhere on planet Earth, on some screen, whether it be the computer or the cell phone or the TV, has an event playing because there's stuff going on over in Australia, there's stuff going on in America, there's stuff going on in Brazil, it's everywhere. And just like any other CrossFitter out there, I have it on a screen. But just like every other CrossFitter, I gotta work here and there. And it's my favorite comment that I've seen on the internet. What do you mean you're not streaming events 1 and 3? What am I supposed to do at work? Work. But we work. And I had a couple of the people come on in, they bring their daughter sits down, I had the event on, she's watching the people go 3, 6, 9, 12 on the thrusters and the muscle ups, and it's all cool. At the end of the hour, the clients that I'm working with come on over, we're watching the event with their daughter, and one of my clients goes, that looks a lot like my squat. And I know what the guy's talking about. I look to him and I go, tell me more. He goes, it doesn't look like she's really going low enough. And I go, you know, I don't think it looks like she's going low enough either. And I'm keen to the fact that when you're looking at it bird's eye down, there's a good chance that maybe you don't have the exact same perspective of the judge on the floor. But then it got me going. And later that night, I had this giant rant with Alexis. Because I've heard this before and it drives me kind of insane. There's something about the squat. And when it comes to the squat, there are people who now have some sort of internal dialogue. That is, they're built that way so they can't get their hip crease below their knee.
Is that what you think? You think?
The same way that that person can. And I think that's a whole bunch of crap. And if you want to say that they're not built that way, well then, I'm not built to go play in the NBA. There are people like Spud Webb who goes and plays in the NBA. They make it work. If you want to play in this sport of CrossFit, you got to do the movements the same way that everybody else does. It should be so simple. And as I'm standing there with my client in the garage, you look and it's like, I really just think that at the absolute best, that is at parallel. It is not below parallel, which is the standard as far as anyone else knows. But let me keep on going with this sort of idea here. I have this conversation with Alexis and eventually it turns into the idea behind a pistol versus a squat. CrossFit even did us the favor recently of changing the verbiage from pistol to a single-legged squat. But a squat is a squat is a squat, right?
I do not like green eggs and ham.
One's just on one leg, single leg, and one is with both legs. How come it is that when people are doing pistols and you see them come into their toes, the judges get really close and they're looking like, you're in your toes. Okay, so now it's gonna be harder for you to get your hip crease below your knee because you never work on your ankle mobility. And I know that you do this because it's the only way that you could do a pistol. And if you had the ankle mobility and you worked on your positions, maybe you would be able to load up your posterior chain a little bit better and you wouldn't rely just on your quad and the freaking rebounding tissues of your tendons. And the judge just sits there and they're like, oh, nope, the hip crease isn't below the knee. I can tell because when you go into your toe, it starts rewiring the way that the judging is. And we all know that person in the affiliate that does it. The person who goes, I'm just gonna do toe pistols. Toe pistols are easy, no problem. And then as a coach, you think, that is so bad for your knees. And you try to do everything that you can do to convince this person that they have to work on their ankle mobility. They have to spend time telling their body that it's okay. I remember when I was in grade school, it was high school. We had a gym class. I had this teacher who had a bowling ball of a stomach. He was also the gymnastics coach who could do a standing backflip. I swear
to God, I was there. Of course you were.
The guy was 5'8", coach, and he could just do a it was incredible because he had to have been 270. But anyway.
You guys want to make out or what?
He has the entire class there, had to have been 30, 40 kids, and he tried to ask everybody who could do a pistol, single-legged squat, and not one person in that class could do it. And the reason that I think that most people can do it, it's the same reason that most people, I think, should start weight training a little bit later than they do, and it's just the coordination that hasn't quite developed yet. So we were probably sophomores. The older you get, the more it is, the better mind-muscle connection you have to your body. You don't really know. You know that freaking person who got too tall too quick and they don't know how to run down a basketball court, but they should be the center because they're the tallest kid on the team. But then you throw a ball at them and it hits them in the throat. Try to catch the ball like this and they just don't know what to do. And that is the same way that I look at a pistol with a whole lot of people. You have to start wiring your brain to move the right way. So maybe it isn't even the fact that you don't have the ankle mobility, which by all means is probably the case for a lot of people. They start stacking up the Olympic weightlifting shoes. They put the inserts inside of the weightlifter, and I've tried that before, and it does help. It just makes it feel easier. And then Bosman will throw in an event where you gotta do running and pistols, or double unders and pistols, and all of a sudden he goes, oh, I can't put on these lifters, so I'm left with my own devices, which is how much time have I spent working on the positions. And that is the same way that I think that a squat should be viewed as well. The best thruster, the best squatter in the history of CrossFit's name is...
His name is Robert Paulson.
Matt Fraser. And what has he done? He spent basically half of his life learning how to do the squat, develop the squat, and have a great squat position. And it is of my opinion that when people have done that sort of work, they should be rewarded for it. But what happens when you start allowing people to do essentially toe pistols in the squat, you are now de-incentivizing people like Fraser to have spent all of that time on their squat. And by all means, nobody was ever going to touch the guy when it came to a squat volume workout because he was so far ahead of one another. But let's just say that you're somebody who's put a bunch of work in from one year to the next. Let's just say you're doing friendly friend. 3 rounds, 21, thrusters at 115 for the men and chest to bar pull-ups, and the thruster was your biggest limiter. I'm not saying that I'm describing myself, but I'm describing myself. You know that there's a way that you can do this that's easier, and you just throw your knees forward because it helps keep your torso up, but you're also very well aware that over the course of those 3 rounds that at some point in time it's going to be rather sketchy if your hip crease is getting below your knee, because just like the pistol, once you start relying on the knees shooting forward, and it's actually something they teach in the level 1 as well, they're looking around and they got all the Olympic weightlifters that think they have these amazing squats.
Is that what you think? You think?
And they know that they've got great squats because they were born and bred in the freaking fires that are the weightlifting community. But in the CrossFit community, they teach you to include the posterior chain. You want to move your hips at the same time that you are moving your knees. And if you just start it with your knees or you just start with your hips, there's something going wrong there. And it's almost as if in the powerlifting community, it's all hips.
What I want you to do is initiate this thing out of the bottom with your butt. And I want him to push right there against that out of the bottom. Do it again. Drive up real hard. Good. First thing that moves is hips. And you see a tiny little change in the back angle at first. If it's any more than that, it's wrong.
In the weightlifting community, it's all knees. One is going to overload your backside, one is going to overload your front squat. In the CrossFit level 1, they teach you to use both. And what happens when you use both is you're going to have the most optimal angles to then get your hip crease below the knee the way that we all hope that happens. I'm sitting there with my client, right? And we're watching the event, and there's people here who are rather narrow with their feet, and they're trying to bounce their hamstrings off their calves. And I think that I actually probably get below parallel here. I don't know. But when you go narrow like this and you squat, no, it becomes easy, right? No. And I wonder if I just do it through a couple of these, what they look like. I don't know. I probably wasn't standing up all the way. No! But the idea is there's so much range of motion that's cut off and you're bouncing off your calves that it's easier, and it's ruining all of the work that someone like a Fraser has put in over the course of their life, or somebody who tried to get better from year after year. Now imagine that I'm somebody with a little bit of a shorter tibia fibula, that lower limb. If that were a little bit shorter and I was doing that exact same thing, people would look at it and go, Andrew just can't get any lower. His bones are getting in the way of his bones, or his legs are just too big. Have you seen the size of Andrew Hiller's hamstrings? Nobody's ever said that. No one's ever said that I've had a big backside.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But in a world that I did, and in a world where my lower limb was shorter, I would be bouncing my calves off of my hamstrings, and people would try to say, well, he can't go any lower, but that's not true. So rather than squatting here and here, you move your feet out a little bit, and rather than shooting your knees forward first thing, like this, and just bouncing your crap off of your crap, you move your feet out a little bit, and you just squat like a normal human being, right? I hope that I'm getting below parallel, but the hip crease goes below the knee. Here's my knee, here's my hip crease. The knee is very tactile. It's like, oh, there's a bone. Where's the bone? Where's the hip crease? It's created when you start to move. And then, of course, the other end of that is when you go too wide. If I go too wide, there's just, I can't get any lower. Go lower, Andrew, you can't do it.
I do it half the time!
And from a side profile, that looks like this. Some people have incredibly mobile hips. I'm thinking Noah Olson. That dude can get below parallel with a very wide hip, and some people can. But does that mean that they should? It's something that's very sport specific. You understand why they do it. The reps turn over quicker. If you got to do 150 wall balls, and taking a wider stance will allow you to get through that quicker. In my opinion, it's almost like taking a shot of alcohol to go and talk to a girl. You don't think that you can do it, but if you really wanted to, you need some sort of help. I want to win this workout, this Karen workout. 150 wall balls, I'm going to take a shot of alcohol. I'm going to bring my feet out a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna take another shot because I'm a little scary, just a little bit further. There are people who operate real well under a couple of shots of alcohol. Noah Olson is that individual. He can go a little wider. You look at him and you go, okay, I get it. You're still operating rather well. All of your bones are stacking properly. It looks like you've never had any sort of an injury down there. We're good to go. But then there are those people who take 2 or 3 shots of alcohol. They've moved their feet out a little bit and everything falls apart. They're slurring their words. They walk on up. They make themselves look like an idiot. They end up going home by themselves. And what do I mean? It's the train wreck squat. Their knees are falling in. Their torso's falling down. They're not getting below parallel. parallel because they don't have the hip mobility to do so, but because they saw Noah Olsen doing it on the internet, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go wide too, because that's a good idea. And oh yeah, this is way easier. And it's the same people who then go to the corner and they go, hey, I need some heroin. I need some heroin because I gotta get below parallel on my pistols. And then you walk into the gym every day and you go, I'm just gonna do toe pistols. I'm never gonna work on my positions. I don't want a job. I'm just gonna sit on the side of the street for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be a drug addict. I'm just gonna do what I wanna do, and I'm not gonna listen to my coach who just wants what's best for me. And then all of a sudden you're 40 years old, you've never worked on your positions before, and you're still living on the street corner, and you wanna go get a job at McDonald's, and they won't even hire you. The judge is just giving you no reps left and right because you can't get your hip crease below your knee because you spent too much time from your 30s and your 40s shooting up heroin because you're addicted to just doing what you think is right. Oh, this feels good. I can get away with this. And then your knee blows out and you don't have health insurance because McDonald's wouldn't even hire you. You don't have a girlfriend because you take 5 shots every time you go to talk to a chick and you can't get your hip below your knee when you're squatting too wide. And I know that I'm not the only coach in the world that just has this maddening view of the way that this looks. It's like, go lower, move your feet out, start moving with your hips. We know that barbell's light and we know that you're trying to go fast, but how come the best teams in this heat are doing it the best? They're getting below parallel, they're standing all the way up. It's like those mid-tiered people. Because I remember watching the West Coast and I remember looking at Jorge Fernandez, Alexis Johnson,
And this is Logan Collins' bread and butter. You see
and freaking Brittany Weiss, all of them. They're doing great. They're getting below parallel, but in the lanes just outside of them, there's the train wreck squat, there's the too narrow-footed squat, and you just ask yourself, who is going to continue to let this stuff happen? It's at this point in the video that I realize that I'm getting a little bit rambly, it's a little bit too long, but I do want to know if this is some sort of a take or a view or an opinion that you've shared in the past. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that I'm not alone in this one. Let me know what you think. Comment section. Andrew Hiller, out.
Please smash that like button, no one touches it.